City of Newburgh IDA monthly board meeting. Today is Wednesday the 22nd. I am Adam Pollock, one of the board members, standing in for the Chairman Marlon Ramos, who couldn't be here tonight. So we'll get started on our agenda. For the first roll call, we have myself, Adam Pollock, Gregory Nato, Executive Director Sharice Vickers, Yanni Pearson, Teresa Priester, Attorney Bob McLaughlin. The notice of the meeting has been duly noticed and proof has been provided by Chair. Second page. And so the next item will be the reading and the approval of the minutes from the prior meeting. So these minutes have been circulated to the board members, and I believe everyone's had a chance to review them. So I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes from last meeting as written.
I move that we approve the minutes from last meeting.
A second? A second? So all those in favor of approving the minutes from last meeting, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstention? All right, the motion carries. Minutes are accepted. Agenda item number 4, the report of the treasurer. So this is the treasurer's report for the February 22nd meeting of the IDA. The operating account began with a balance of $4,238,254.38. There were total deposits during the month made of $13,137.56. Over disbursements and checks totaling $124,753.05, giving us a balance as of January 31st, 2023 of $4,126,638.89. The payroll account opened with a balance of $11,004.90. Notably, there was a large transfer from the operating account to fund the payroll. That was a one-time occurrence of $120,000. So the closing balance on 1/31/2023 was $123,000, $950.35. Okay. I will entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report for January 2023.
I move that we accept the treasurer's report.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
And I'll second it, Teresa Priester.
Teresa? Okay. So all those in favor of accepting the treasurer's report, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Right. And so I will entertain a second motion to pay our bills for the month.
I move to pay, a motion to pay the bills.
Thank you.
Approve the payment of the bills.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Gregory. All those in favor of paying our bills, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, the next agenda item will be the chairperson's report. Unfortunately, our chairperson could not be here tonight, so there will be no report. I don't have any in his stead. So we'll move on to the report of council. Bob?
Good evening. Thank you. I just have two quick things. One is Cher asked us to look at the cell tower leases, and so we've been doing that off and on since December. There is an issue that we need to discuss with the auditor, and Cher has asked us to chat with the auditor at some point over the next several days before the end of the month. So to the extent we reach any conclusions, I'll report on that at the next meeting. In addition, we're looking at the property that is located at 2 Corwin, C-O-R-W-I-N Court. We believe that the IDA has a lease as a landlord there, that we believe that the IDA is the owner. The tenant there has contacted the IDA, contacted the director for an extension of that lease. We have some issues regarding that lease and the ownership, and Katie Kemp, who's been here, has been reviewing that issue and has discussed it extensively with Cher. We've taken it about as far as we can go based on the electronic records that are available, and what we asked the executive director this afternoon was if we could go ahead and order what's called a last owner search, which is really just a search by a title company of the public record to get a copy of the deed, the most recent deed, into presumably the IDA. We want to confirm that the IDA is in fact still the owner before we consider whether or not you extend this lease or not. So we think you are the owner. All indication is that you are the owner, but we haven't been able to. There's 3 parcels, and they're all kind of different ownership structures, and we just want to confirm. So, again, we should be able to report on that next month. And as a reminder, the EDC conference is next week, Wednesday and Thursday in Albany. We will be participating in that, and if any of you want to come up and join, I would encourage you to do so. It's a day in Albany, which is not always the best place to be, but I think it's a great, worthwhile conference, and you'll be able to see other members of IDAs, both locally and from afar, that are experiencing a lot of the same issues that you are, and the agenda looks pretty good. So,
Thanks.
it's up to you.
Thanks, Bob.
If you participate, please let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, I think 3 of us are going, me, Anya, and Marlon.
I can't go.
Oh. Okay, well, I have an extra ticket for somebody who wants to go.
I was going to try to go next week.
Okay, well,
Do you want
we'll
to
talk
go
about it.
You can go.
That works.
Yeah, I'll confirm with you. I just want to make sure I can get the day.
March 1st,
March 1st, yeah, Wednesday.
so, yeah.
All right, and is that it, Bob, for the council's report?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next agenda item will be the executive director's report.
So I don't really have too much to add this evening. I do want to just, refer to a conversation that I had with you, Adam, from the last board meeting about taking the money that we don't need from the operating account into the money market account. And I think somebody asked, like, what was the threshold or what didn't we need? And I said I'd get back to you all. So I'm thinking that we could take $4 million out, put it into the money market account, and then we can just reevaluate it every quarter if that needs to happen again. So that, and Bob also already mentioned that we're having the audit. I think probably in the future we want to look at doing QuickBooks Online. I know that that was something we had mentioned before in the past, and I think now it just makes the audit even easier, quite frankly. So I will probably put together a proposal for you all to see what that would look like, and how we would go about having Michelle trained to use that, because she's not familiar with that version. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else on that, we'll move on to new business. And I guess under new business share tonight, we have 2 resolutions upon which to vote. The first one is the RFP for the banking services that we discussed. And the second one is the resolution relating to authorizing the agency to enter into a license agreement. So I guess we will handle the RFP one first. Is it?
So I'll just
Specify what the services are.
So just who holds the IDA money? I think every couple of years we should do an RFP for it anyway, and it's been discussed here often that some board members think there are more competitive rates with other banks, so this is just an opportunity to do that. So this is what the RFP would look like. Chrissy has sent me a couple of banking institutions that she think, this could be sent to, and if you all know anybody locally, for sure send them my way. But this just allows me to send this out.
But that's separate from looking for a different money market holder, is that?
So this is the whole thing, like, this is like,
It would include money market?
right, all,
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
unless you all tell me differently, but,
No, because that's part of it, so that's.
okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so the next step would just be to vote on the proposal, and it's a roll call?
Mhm.
And who does that? Is that me or you?
I could do the roll call, but you can ask for that first motion.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on resolution number 2023-02-22-01, which is the resolution authorizing the agency to issue a request for proposal with regard to the money account that we just discussed. So, anyone like to move?
I move to approve resolution number 2023-02-2201.
Thank
I
you,
second.
Yanya. Thank you, Greg, for the second.
Great, so I'll do a roll call. Marlon Ramos is absent, Christina Amato is absent, Michael Kelly is absent, Adam Pollock,
Aye?
yes, Gregory Nato,
Yes.
Teresa Priester,
Yes.
and Robin Yania Pearson.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, then we'll move to the second resolution, which is Resolution 2023-02-22-02. The resolution which authorizes the agency to enter into a license agreement, and I understand we have some information coming.
Yeah, so we have Jeremy Kaufman and Ally Church here from the city to discuss it. I'll just tell the other board members briefly, like, what's going on. So I've been just talking with them for quite a while now. The possibility of them looking at our properties that we have over on West Street. I collectively call them the West Street properties because they're all off West Street, that like driveway that goes up there. So the IDA, especially for the new board members, you're not familiar, but we have a parcel of land that's like when you go into that driveway on the right, we have that first parcel of land. And then there are about 3 other ones that are not on a street. So they're just kind of in the middle of the field, and whether you're standing here and you're on our parcel or somebody else's parcel, there isn't really a way to know. And so we've been talking to the city about the possibility of them taking over those parcels. And they're here to discuss the possibility of having them surveyed so that we know exactly where things are and what the boundaries of those parcels or those lots are. So I'll invite Jeremy or Ally to talk about it.
Members, Jeremy Kaufman, Assistant Corporation Counsel for the City of Newburgh. Is this says on? Better? All right. So Jeremy Kaufman, Assistant Corporation Counsel for the City of Newburgh, and again, Ally Church, Director of Planning and Development. Beforehand, may I approach the members and just hand out maps to everyone so it might be a little easier for everybody to see
Thank you.
what we're talking about?
Thank you.
The specific ask tonight is only dealing with survey services. A little bit of history on the map here. You'll see in the upper right-hand corner of the map, that is a larger scaled-out view of the properties that we're talking about. It is a section of properties that is just west of West Street, in between South and Broadway, primarily. And when you zoom in a little bit further, the remainder of the parcels are mapped out. In color coding, the red parcels are ones that are owned currently by the city. The blue parcels are owned currently by the IDA, and the magenta areas are what's known as paper streets, undeveloped streets to date. A little bit of brief history on these West Street properties, at least going back about 20 years. The city had had owned at one point, primarily via tax foreclosure, all of the properties, both labeled as city-owned and IDA-owned. And there was a discussion and a plan in place approximately 20 years ago that was designed to redevelop that area as a medical technology park. So in the history of it, it's called, people refer to it as West Med Tech, or the West Med Tech area. For a handful of reasons, still unbeknownst to me, that plan really went nowhere, aside from the construction of a building which is on the property at 155 West Street. In almost 20 years of non-development, the city found or thinks it's probably time to revisit that entire area and move a lot more deliberately in the way that that area might look and might be redeveloped. So this particular ask before the IDA today is a very small step one in that direction, which is to actually survey the properties and see where the property bounds are, what exists, before then moving to future further steps that are not any subject here tonight. So on that front, the city already has in its budget a plan to survey its own properties, again, what are labeled in red here, and as part of that, the professional surveying services are willing and able to survey the IDA's parcels as well as part of an overall package to see where the meets and bounds of all of those parcels are. Ordinarily, to get access to the property, again, if the request was of the city, a person would need a license agreement, and in a similar fashion as the IDA being a public body, we would need a license agreement as well. To that end, Bob and I have traded drafts of the license agreement that is before the IDA today. We're both comfortable with the language, and Bob can certainly speak to this. I believe is prepared to recommend adoption and signing and entering into that license agreement if approved by the board. Similarly, the city will have to go through a similar process where we'll have a resolution put before the city council to enter into this license agreement and then go forward with the surveying services. So that, in short, is the request. We hope that the IDA approves the resolution, and if there's any questions, stand free to answer.
I'll just add that the license agreement prepared by Jeremy is straightforward. It's fairly typical in real estate to do something like this. In fact, you signed a very similar one in connection with the Scobie Drive property to allow them to go on the property to do the work that they need to do for DEC. The only thing that we added was that the surveyor provide us with evidence of insurance if they're on your property, so that we know that they're insured in case something happens, and that if the surveyor disturbs anything on the property, that it be repaired and put back into the same condition, or essentially the same condition that it was. There's really no, I don't think, any real likelihood that a surveyor is really going to disturb the property, because it's really just on the surface, and they go out with their little sticks and whatever they are, and they figure out where the property, the boundaries are. So very straightforward license agreement. Again, very typical. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but there's nothing in our opinion that would prevent you from approving and signing the license agreement.
So once we vote, it passes, it goes to the city council, they vote, it passes, city goes ahead and procures a surveyor, and lets it happen, and then pays for it.
That's exactly right.
Can we
Yeah.
have a peek? What's the conversation about the next step after the survey is completed? The surveying?
There's, to my knowledge and anyone's, I don't think that there's a true long-term plan for development yet. I mean, because honestly, it can take the final development can take a lot of different forms. The property, even as it stands right now, could be divided and subdivided into smaller parcels. So what was once envisioned as one large project for the entire site could actually this time be a series of smaller projects along the way. So what that final end product looks like, I don't know. Any of that would certainly have to be approved by ultimately the city council. I'm sure that any developer or potential developer would certainly have interest in either coming before the city council or the IDA to discuss kind of financial incentives and tools in that regard. In terms of just a very discrete next step after survey, what I would expect would be to do testing of the property. We'd want to see if any portions of it are contaminated in any way. There is some general knowledge that some of the portions of the property over there have contamination. The depths of that are unknown, meaning like how far down it penetrates. Also, the breadth of it is unknown at this point. So the city would probably work on budgeting some budgeting some funds to do soil testing and maybe test pits and boring, things like that. So that way, if and when a development was ready to go, it could really be close to a kind of a full scale development, meaning not leaving it to a developer necessarily to have to deal with certain remediation. But maybe that's what I would foresee at this moment.
Thank you.
So on the map, this map is really helpful, and it's interesting how this landed like this, however that happened. The red, shaded areas, and we have the IDA ones are in blue and the magenta paper streets, and there's some properties it look like in the middle, and some of them are small where they aren't colored. Are those privately owned properties?
They're privately owned properties. I think what you're referring to is the ones that are labeled as 14, 3, 52, 53, and 51. That
Yeah.
kind of
Yep.
touches along the red, the blue, and the magenta. Yeah, those properties are privately owned. There are two separate owners. One person owns two of the parcels, and then there's a separate owner for that other parcel. I have no idea about those property owners' intentions for the property, nor have, to my knowledge, there been any overtures by anyone, either IDA, city council, about potential acquisition of those parcels.
Gotcha.
It was so complicated on some levels just getting acquisition of 4 of the other parcels that are currently on the map and kind of bringing that back within the city stable that we didn't even really contemplate what those next steps might look like. So,
I guess I just wanted to ask, do they have to be, or will they be involved in this process at all? I mean, with the survey, do they have to be involved, consulted, anything like that?
they don't need to be involved or consulted with any of this, with any of these surveys. No.
Okay.
So I'm still, I think if I heard correctly, but I may not have. So are we in conversation around turning those properties over to the city? That's not a conversation?
No, that's not the request, but that's not the request
Yeah,
for today.
right,
The
this is
request for
just
right
the
now is
survey,
just,
but yeah.
right, that's not to say that at some point in the future that might happen, but I would certainly characterize that as premature right now. We have to learn a lot more about the property now. Like I said, a lot of the people who were around 20 years ago aren't around anymore. A lot of knowledge left with them about the properties. We kind of need to learn about now, what it is and what we're about to get into.
I'm sorry for coming in late. I just have a question. Is the city, are you guys in contract for these, or you already own these?
Already owned.
Okay, so you purchased them. I think I was coming in at the tail end. Is there an intention for the site already, or is there going to be an RFP for this?
No stated intention at this point yet. Haven't heard. We're currently what's before the IDA is just permission to access the IDA sites, just to survey the property. So there's going to be surveys of the IDA property as well as the city-owned properties. just to see basic meets and bounds of the property, how far everything really goes and extends. Trying to move very deliberately on the parcels now.
But the city acquired these, right? Because you guys, or did you guys receive them through foreclosure?
Originally acquired through tax foreclosure. So those parcels were not surveyed at the time that the city acquired them. They were ultimately, when they were conveyed either to the IDA or to the developer at the time of the West MedTech project, or whether they were conveyed to the IDA as a pass-through to the developer, whatever that was. The developer had an opportunity to survey the properties. There are meets and bounds descriptions in the deed records that show general area, that show the general look of the parcels, but nothing that was ever, no surveys that were ever certified to the city or to the IDA for them to rely on to say this is definitively the meets and bounds of the property.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jeremy? No? All right. Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to the business. Then I'll entertain a motion to authorize the agency to enter into the license agreement with the city as discussed.
I'm sorry, this is for the resolution for this?
Yes,
To allow them to survey.
for us to enter into the license agreement to permit the city to go ahead and secure a surveyor. Do I hear a motion?
Okay, I move that we approve resolution number 2023-02-22-02, authorizing the agency to enter into a license agreement.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Yania. Thank you, Gregory.
Okay, do a roll call.
vote.
1 second, let me turn to that page. Okay, Marlon Ramos is absent. Christina Amato. Okay, abstention. Michael Kelly is absent. Adam Pollock.
Yes.
Gregory Nato.
Yes.
Teresa Priester.
Yes.
And Robin Yanya Pearson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay. Then that brings us to old business. Sherry, is there any? Okay. Arguably the most impactful item is next. Motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Sorry, since
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I came in late. The RFP for the banking, that's just to release the, okay, cool.
The RFP, yeah.
I'll use the people that, you emailed me, and I'll send it
Did
out.
you get any other recommendations? Did you guys email anything?
Not from anybody else, no. So everybody's welcome to send anything in.
Okay. Do we move to adjourn? So moved.
I second.
All right. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.